Hello and welcome to the Cutie Crusaders, episode 92 for April 8th, 2014. My name is Rainbow Plasma. I'm the organizer and host of this week's podcast, and today I'm joined by...
Burn-1, Specialist Coordinator. And I'm also this week's Coneditor.
Wow.
Wow, great going. I'm FlutterGuy317, and I am the podcast's media manager.
Great going? What? You're... Okay.
Thanks,
Atmos Spark, can you please attempt to do this coherently?
Who, me? I'm not coherent.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Atmo Spark, and I do the stuff with the things. What do I do? Questions and DeviantArt.
Hey!
Only specialists here.
We are so organized.
We
Welcome
are
to the
such
special
profesh.
podcast,
Wow.
apparently.
Much
Jeez,
wow.
guys. Good job. Good job.
So this past week, for whoever was in the stream, I was away on a business trip, and it was kind of fun. I don't really have anything to talk about it for it, but I just thought I would mention it.
That's
And,
cool. We're on a lot of trips lately, just like random last-minute trips. You and Burned.
Yeah.
Random last-minute trips, mans.
Herald City Comic-Con, man.
Yeah, Bo just sends us a message one day. It's like, yeah, sorry guys, I'm going to Germany.
Yeah.
It's true. Last like 3 or 4 months, everybody's been going on crazy random trips.
Yeah. So I got to go down to Atlanta, Georgia, which the weather was a lot warmer than here, so that was nice. And
Atlanta.
Yep.
I got one coming up,
does
so I may or
Atlanta
may
have
not be on
something
an
like-
episode coming up.
Oh yeah, you have a trip too, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, everybody's going places. I'm moving soon.
Yeah.
I'm moving out of my apartment soon, so
I'm
that should be fun.
going to be going to BabsCon here in April. That'll be fun.
Yay.
Yeah, everybody's going on trips.
Yeah.
Got BabsCon. Shout out.
Shout out to BabsCon.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And if you see
San
Burn
Francisco Bay
there,
Area.
say hi.
Smack him in the face first.
Please. It'll be
Just
fantastic.
Just a good open palm.
Yeah.
Not too hard.
No.
Just to get
do
a
it,
good
do it so
noise.
that you leave a handprint on his cheek.
Can we not tell random strangers to abuse me physically? That'd be
Yeah.
great.
No.
It's funny because I was totally like, no, it's a joke. But then I realized that a lot of people
Would
who
actually do
like
it.
watch online stuff sometimes take jokes way too far. So don't slap Burned.
Please don't smack Burn in the face.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Give him a high five.
Don't slap Burned. Don't abuse Burned. We can do it because we're his friends.
A punch
You
in the
can't.
small of the back is
What is
fine.
this?
Just
You're not.
don't slap his face.
This is like
Wow.
abuse Burn day. Jeez.
Yeah. No,
Poor guy.
don't abuse Burned. Some people, I guess that's a very good point. Some people don't know their boundaries sometimes. When you listen to people on the internet a lot of times you can get that feeling where you're like, oh, we're really close because, I listen to them every week or listen to them every day. And, you get this kind of close environment with them. I've totally gotten that with some like YouTubers that I watch, but you really got to be careful. Like you don't actually like,
You don't
I've
know.
listened to
there's
your
definitely
voice
a line.
every day for the past year, but I
Gav
don't
and I
know
are
you.
like this.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that like the same stuff that we say amongst each
I'm
other.
gonna go up to a YouTuber and just be like, I know you, but you don't know me.
And then just fade into the bush behind you.
Just
Like
fade
that.
into the other fans.
Yeah.
Back
just
slowly.
remember, I'll be listening.
keep
I'll
eye
be
contact and
here
just
always.
back out into the crowd.
Yeah. So
That'd be pretty memorable.
yeah.
Speaking of memorable
Yeah.
things,
Speaking of memorable things, Crab Battle Part 3. Burn, do you want to talk about it?
Crab
Yeah,
bottle
crab.
plot tree.
Crab Battle Part 3, I believe, is our next episode, right?
correct?
Mhm.
Yep. So as of the 11th is when we'll be recording that episode. So it is the due date for any Crab Battle art that you would like to make to be seen in that featured episode.
In 3 days from the time this airs.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yep, correct. So the Friday after this airs, April the 11th, make sure you get those in. We've gotten some really good submissions,
We have.
so we're super happy that you guys have kind of taken it upon yourselves to go and help us out for this kind of episode. So good on you, but keep them coming in. We will. There's nothing is set in stone, so we're still looking for all types of submissions.
You have 3 days.
Do it now. We really, really enjoy seeing you guys submitting that art, and it's absolutely amazing artwork, and it's gonna be a fun episode, I think.
Yeah, should be fun.
Yeah.
And
We've also got episode 100 coming up.
yeah,
Speaking of fan participation, after next week, it's only going to be one thing. I know I kind of get on people's cases when we have more than one thing that we're requesting from you guys. But I know you guys are up for the challenge. And after next week, we'll only have this one thing. But just to remind people as well, to send in text submissions and or voice submissions for our episode 100. So you can send in and answer the questions, what have you learned from the Cutie Crusaders, and what have you enjoyed about the Cutie Crusaders, so that we can put you in the episode for episode 100. That, on the other hand, has not been getting a lot of submissions, so maybe submit now, and you will have a higher chance of being on the show.
Yeah. Do that.
So, yeah.
Yep.
We've only got like
And you
one
can
of each at the moment.
Yeah. You can submit everything to our email address.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that'll be going on for the next couple months or so.
Like
we'll let
6,
you know when
7
that
weeks.
episode's coming up. Yeah,
Yeah.
6 weeks or so.
Yep.
Well, this is episode 92, so in 8 weeks.
Yeah, it's not perfect though.
Yeah.
It's not perfect though because of recording schedules. Anyways, yeah, you got those couple things you can send in. You guys should know all about that by now. Yeah.
All right, so
Reveal.
our theme for this week is Vinyl Scratch, aka DJ Pony, aka DJ Pone 3.
No, don't.
DJ
Don't.
Pone 3.
It's
Pone
not
squared,
DJ Pone. I mean,
cubed,
look,
I mean.
okay. I'm not gonna make any bold statements about what it is or it isn't.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, DJ Pone 3 is a stupid sounding name.
It's DJ
Aw,
Pony,
I-
but the E is a 3 because it's cool.
You're
Right,
a
but it's
stupid
still
sounding name.
It's
Yeah,
still
there you go.
pronounced DJ Pony, and it still sounds better when you pronounce it
I always
DJ Pony.
pronounced it
And
It
you're
is DJ Pony,
vernacular.
but people
3.
like type DJ Pone 3 because that's what it is.
No, but people say DJ Pony
Really?
3.
I do.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've heard many people say DJ Pony
I
3.
do.
I say DJ.
People.
Thank you, Burned.
Yeah, you guys have
Ted
no.
and I are gonna go
taste.
over here in our cool corner.
We're gonna
guys have no
do
taste.
the cool show.
What we can generally agree on is that Vinyl Scratch is a pretty good name for it.
Yes.
So we can we're just gonna call it Vinyl Scratch because it's a good name from all people's perspectives.
I'm going to say
Yeah.
DJ Pony
So-
because she is the DJ.
Yeah. So Vinyl
All
Scratch is the DJ Pony, and
Correct.
she actually had a really cool, almost a PMV. Well, without any ponies in it.
Oh yeah,
by the
Howard
hub.
was showing us that
Yeah.
last week, right?
Yeah, it's I mean, spoiler alert, but it's well, not really spoiler alert because it's like a special like side thing, but it's from the new Equestria Girls movie. It's kind of like I guess it's a
Kind of like a teaser.
Yeah.
That'll be why I haven't seen it then.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a spoiler.
it's like a
I avoid
teaser.
spoilers.
It's not really a spoiler though because
It's
I
not
don't
a spoiler,
I don't
though.
think that
It's like
is
a
actually in the-
commercial or advertisement for it, like
Yeah.
a
But
movie
no,
trailer.
but that's a bad example though, because a lot of times commercials can give away spoilers. But this is like a completely separate thing. It's just the music video is in the world in the whatever anthro world of high school teenage ponies.
Yeah.
There's just the Vinyl Scratch character walking around, and she puts on headphones and like dubstep starts blaring, and like
Yeah.
as she's walking by, like things are happening around her that matches the music, and that's basically it.
Oh.
Yeah. It's actually
So
really well done.
It has nothing to do with like
There's
the-
no
the
plot points
actual-
or anything like that.
not even close. Like
Yeah.
there's not even hints. or
Okay,
anything.
good,
It's
'cause
just
that's
like a
why I watch
separate
it.
thing.
I watch it
Yeah.
for
Yeah, it's a completely separate thing.
Yeah. So anyhow, we'll get on to the art. Our first piece is called Vinyl Scratch Print by Hobbs Maxwell. And this is probably one of the most famous pieces of art featuring Vinyl Scratch, in which she's basically smashing/scratching a record. And what's cool about this is the whole like warped perspective on the turntable that she's got in front of her. Because it's basically kind of curved from the left. And I mean, if you've ever seen a turntable, they're not curved.
It doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely heavily exaggerated.
It's quite
Yeah.
vinyl smash.
Yes.
Well, it was a good try.
Because
Yeah.
it looks like she's hitting it so hard that it's bent the sides of the thing up and the record
Yeah,
is flying
it's
off.
bending everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
All the
interesting.
action.
It's interesting to see because like in a lot of these pieces, there's kind of portrayal of like just massive sound or like high energy. And this piece, Hobbs Maxwell used that perspective of the turntable and also this kind of warping of the vinyl record itself that to kind of portray that like raw energy of Vinyl Scratch's scratching.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's a lot of, when we're talking about energy, a lot of it has to do with how much movement the piece is kind of conveying. And there's a couple of things to do with her. You know, her hair is moving a little bit, but generally speaking, she's not showing a huge amount of movement. But what she's affecting, what she's putting, you know, energy into is her turntable, and the bendiness and the record on the her right, our left, you know, coming off, and the whole the bend of the you know, final thing that she's actually touching, all of that kind of really conveys motion. The lines by her like most on the, I don't know how to describe it, the forefront hoof, there's a lot of lines around that convey a lot of motion too. So all of the motion is focused directly into what she's doing with the turntable.
Also the colours. The colours make it stand out too. The purple right at the front, whereas the blue from the stuff in the background sort of blends into the background, but the purple doesn't. It really stands out.
There's like 3 colors in this piece. There's like white, blue, and purple.
Even the white is blue.
I really like that violet.
I know. You see that a lot with vinyl scratch pieces too. Is this purple, because it really complements her glasses, and especially in this case, like there's these bright, vibrant, like just streaks of purple to kind of display motion and to have her pop out a little bit from the background.
Burned, question.
Yeah.
So you know more about colors than I do. When we're talking about the word violet, is that like is violet a specific shade, or is it more of a general, like just the purple end of the spectrum?
Purple's a very generic color. Purple's kind of closer to the color of the record. Violet's a lighter shade of color. It's closer to pink. But like, you could say violet has a specific shade, but violet is pretty open-ended, just like purple's open-ended. But like, look at her glasses, for example. I would say her glasses are made with purple and violet. Purple being the deeper color, violet being the lighter color. That's how I describe that.
I think sometimes we have a lot of loose interpretations, and a lot of people have different interpretations. So these colors become kind of more general terms, because it's hard in a world where we can look at millions of colors between like spectrums of combinations between hue, saturation, and you know, like value. We can make millions of colors, right? So it's hard to say like this is specifically violet, because then it becomes like a 1 in a million thing, right? So it's kind of hard to tell. So I guess the colors have started becoming more generalized, or at least the colors that we were taught in school, you know, blue, purple, yellow. It's more of like a general term.
Yeah.
So like we could look at this and be like, it's purple, and then there's purple in the lighter parts, and there's purple in the darker parts, and because to me, when I think of violet, I think of dark, and when I think of purple, I think of lighter. But you've obviously got like the opposite opinion.
Yeah.
It's interesting how we've kind of learned those colors differently. Just like it annoys me when people talk about cyan in a general sense, not necessarily because they're wrong, but just because like when I learned of the color cyan, it was a very specific color.
Yeah. I'm the same.
Whereas turquoise was like turquoise, teal, and cyan. All of those were very specific colors. But nowadays, when colors are so blended together, they're all used kind of interchangeably. And it still annoys me because I don't think they're interchangeable. But they are more general.
I completely agree with that. I always learn cyan, teal, and turquoise as different shades of blue, not just a random mix between green and blue.
Yeah. They were very specific colors to me.
I mean, it also depends on the application. Like if you're talking cyan in terms of actually drawing on a computer or like printing or whatever, media, it's very specific.
That's I guess how color, I sort of learned.
Yeah.
Same.
Because I've always had. Sorry.
If you think about it, like every named color is really just a range of colors. Like if you talk about red, you could be talking about any type of red on that end of the episode. Or
there's kind of like a
spectrum,
different. Yeah, there's a different connotation to that. Anyways, I don't want to get too much into the color. I was just wondering what the kind of definition of violet was, if it was used as a more general.
It is used as a general term, because along those same notes, one of the reasons why I use the term violet is because when we're talking about the color wheel, and when I learned about color, like specifically in color theory, we don't talk about purple on the color wheel. Like sometimes purple comes up, but it's violet. You have blue and you have red, and in between that you have violet, and in between violet and blue you have blue violet, and in between red and violet you have red violet. So violet, 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 violet was always used in color theory as the term describing a purple, because colors on the color wheel and hues on the color wheel are always bright. They are a brighter version of that color. They're never like darker. So normally when you see like a darker color, we would call it like a darker purple or a deeper shade of violet. You know, that's normally how that color would be used when I was in like the classroom setting.
Yeah. Well, I just looked it up in terms of Wikipedia, which may not be the best artistic resource. But it was showing purple as this general, is the range of colors occurring between red and blue.
Yep.
So it's like a super general term.
Yep.
And then it was describing violet as like from the middle ground of purple to blue. So it's like a blue purple. It's in between blue and purple. So
Almost like a magenta-ish, but not.
it's just starting
really.
to split up the color wheel more and more and more into smaller and smaller pieces.
Yeah.
Just like in between. Normally you'd be like in between blue and green, and that's where that whole cyan thing comes in.
Yep.
They're just trying to segment it down a little bit more and more. I guess what would you call that? A tertiary color?
What? Violet's straight up, it's just the purple color. But yes, if it's in between a secondary and a primary, it's a tertiary.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So back to the
yeah, we
piece.
got a couple of minutes left on this piece, so let's
Yeah.
talk about it a little bit more.
I love how everything in this piece, and this is going back to the first point I made, is conveying some sort of like motion or like just this broad sense of being there. Like, for instance, Vinyl's pose is very like I don't know, it's very like well, for instance, her front hoof is very large in the front and very small in the back. It's a very like solid pose that she's in, and the expression on her face is just like one of raw power. Well, again, the raw power thing.
Raw power.
Yeah. But also like there's a lot of motion kind of stuff going on in this piece. Like if you look, there's these lines of motion on the records, and there's obviously like the Vinyl's left arm is on a diagonal, which conveys some motion.
It's all the diagonals.
Yeah.
I like the little record like flying off of the turntable.
Yeah.
More movement lines coming off of that.
Yeah.
I think that conveys, out of everything, the most amount of motion in this piece.
Yeah.
Because like it could just be forced perspective or something being bent, but the fact that it's physically like the record she's smashing and then that little record off the sides are physically like warping upwards and then like flying off, like make it so you can actually tell that there is actually some kind of like impact or like greater cartoonish motion going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're going to move on to our next piece, which is called Wub the Night Away by Denny Butt, who has a fantastic name.
All right. So here's the deal. Now, everyone knows I am a face guy, right? It's been stated on probably every single podcast. So I should probably stop bringing it up. But just in case.
Face, eye expression. Go on.
Yes. So that's what I focus on. And I will be the first one to come out and say that the face is a bit derpy on this one. Not because it's not well done, it's just a kind of a silly expression. But I think it's important that we talk about Denny Butt's art, not just because we don't talk about his art, a lot before, but also because he has this strange ability to make the characters look very horse-like and yet not make them look like horse-like. We always joke around that when we see strange-looking or like too realistic faces. Oh, sorry, is Denny Butt a she? You could have just said that, Burnt. You don't have to type it.
I didn't want to interrupt you. You're on a roll.
Calling you out.
Go on.
Okay, sorry, she. Denny Butt is a she. Anyways, so a lot of times when artists try to get like too realistic with things, they end up making things look a little bit too much like real-life horses. And a lot of the times, that looks a bit strange, because ponies are not horses. Ponies are ponies, and they look different. Denny Butt has this weird thing where she definitely has this horse feel to it, but still manages to get expressions so well done that I personally still manage to enjoy it. And I think if anyone wants to look at some great expression work, head over to Denny Butt's Denny Butt's page, because she does a really good job with expressions.
It's a really, really good Cutie Mark Crusader piece. within like again expressions like and all Danny Butt's work. Really good.
For sure.
I love the hair in Denny Butt's work. It's always so anime-esque, I guess. But it's just very cartoony in general. I think it has something to do with the particular shading that she uses on it, which is kind of this harder shading. And also the fact that it's very thin pencil lines.
There's no sort of blurring between anything. Everything has its own shape, its own form. There's no blending of colors or anything.
Yeah.
So there's something really respectable about super clean and like fine, small line work.
Yeah.
I think if there was the perfect word to describe Denny Butt's art is that she finds a perfect middle ground with everything. You know, when we're talking about the difference between a pony and a horse, it kind of slips in right in the perfect middle ground there. When we talk about things like the hair, you know, she slips in the perfect middle ground between show accurate and adding more detail, you know, because a lot of times people can get way too detailed and they go strand by strand and it can look ridiculous, you know. But she seems to have this middle ground between the two where she adds some detail, but not too much, you know, like you said, she kind of keeps it anime-ish. And I think the same can be said about her expressions. It's never too crazy over the top. I think this is the most over the top out of any of her pieces. And the same with the body poses. It's cartoony, but not crazy.
Yeah.
So there's an interesting, you know, there's a lot of interesting middle grounds that Denny Butt does. So I think that's a great way to describe her art in general. Good compromise.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely like her style, and as Bern was pointing out before with the thin lines, there's something that is really kind of appealing to the thin lines and also to these kind of long drawn out tapers to the lines. Just talking about how the lines end, like in Vinyl's haunch and in her, you can't really see her front hoof, but you can kind of see those lines there, and pretty much every line that ends somewhere where you can see it, there's this really long drawn out taper, which is kind of, I don't know, it adds to the cleanness of the piece and it gives it a really cool style.
Clean and crisp.
Yeah.
It's it's especially noticeable in the hair where it follows the curve.
Yeah.
Makes it look a little bit more like hair as well. The fact that like the color stops and then it's just the line continuing on.
Yeah, that is cool too. And it also could, because of the way the hair is flowing and the curves and the whole hair in general has this diagonal feel to it. It does convey that kind of swooshing motion, which these drawn out lines also help to kind of give it that effect.
Swooshiness, if you will.
Yeah. I love what Denny Butt has done with Vinyl's glasses. Basically kind of a reflection of this laser light show that is going on currently that Vinyl is putting on. And
yeah, I was curious if you guys saw that as well, like like she's looking, or like the reflection is like, you know, one of those like crazy laser machines, and it's like reflecting a crazy laser light show. If you guys saw that too, if it was just like kind of like a design.
No, I
get
saw that.
as well.
It's like she's standing, like you're close up on her, standing on a stage doing a performance, and that's like out of the crowd.
Yeah, it definitely looks like that.
Yep.
I haven't gone to many I haven't gone to like many concerts at all. Not to mention like a digital concert nowadays, like all the raves and what have these kids these days are doing with the raves and the pop music and but do the artists usually wear headphones?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They do that thing where they have like the one ear and they put their like they hold their hand on the one ear and then they slip their, don't they do that?
Well, it all depends, because if you're up on stage, it's very hard to hear your own music.
And I guess they're live mixing, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Okay.
the thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're playing live, like in an orchestra environment or like in a rock band or whatever, you have monitor speakers that are playing back to you, but you still have in-ear pieces so that you can kind of hear, I guess, your individual instrument better. Because if you're playing on a stage where there's a lot of like screaming fans and whatnot, you can't even hear what you yourself are playing, never mind what the rest of your band is playing. So like
Until it suddenly goes horribly wrong.
yeah. Exactly. But yeah, I think with like, especially because DJs do a lot of the mixing and stuff, and that requires beat matching and prepping songs and stuff like that.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, yada yada yada.
Anyway,
Headphones are
moving on.
kind of a
The
must.
kids with their headphones in the performances.
I was just gonna point out a little thing that I really like in this one is if you look at the shadows in like her leg, chest area, what is it? I guess her horn, and then underneath her glasses and headphones, it's like a kind of like a pale green color in that shade, and underneath her neck and underneath her jaw, it's almost like a gradient as well. I just really like that use of the color like green in there. It kind of reflects the green in the background and then the green in her headset, because there's kind of reflected colors going on throughout all around in the piece. So I don't know.
Yeah.
My eyes really drawn to those green shade areas, because they're not like it's just not just a darker color. It's actually like another shade of color.
Yeah. Denny Butt does that really nice shading. And I think it has something to do with, partially to do with the colors that she chooses, and also partially because of the style, where it's this kind of hard shading, but you get like these thin lines in the shading and stuff like that, and it's multi-layered. But yeah, I agree. I really like how the green was used in the shading here.
It also helps set a tone for like the colors of what's going on, where if she's lit in normal lighting, but then the shadows she's casting are like her specific colors, then it kind of sets a tone, whether it's dusk, dawn, or this stage crazy lights everywhere. Like the green stuff behind her is almost reflecting onto her, creating the shadow, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it helps make a more complete scene, because like you said, if there was a lighter or there's a darker one, it would look kind of like dawn or dusk. But we look at this one and there's like a green, and we're like, all right, well, where is that green coming from? Because it's reflecting off something, and we see the background, and then we start putting together the scene in front of our heads, because we're not given a lot to work with. A reflection off of the glasses, a blurred background, and a reflected light that is slightly green.
She's in the Matrix. It's got to be.
For God's sakes. What if I told you we should move on to the next piece?
I would say, but okay. All right, so our next piece is called Vinyl Scratching Pony by Miyu. See, I said Pony.
Mio.
And
Mio.
I mispronounced the artist name, but I said Pony and not Pon 3.
Good. Good point. You're learning.
This is another extremely popular vinyl scratch piece within the fandom. And once again, you get this really distorted perspective of like the scenery and the turntables and stuff like that, which causes you a lot of motion and action and stuff in the piece.
It's popular because Mio's amazing, that's why.
Well, yeah.
Also, this was made back in April 2011. It's pretty OG Brony.
Holy cow, that's almost 3 years ago, folks.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That is nuts sauce.
Guys, we're getting
Crazy.
old.
You guys are getting old.
Yeah.
I'm just getting younger by the day.
Benjamin Button.
Shut up. Yeah. I definitely, this is super common, and I think a lot of people have seen this. It's been everywhere in terms of, I had to go back and like severely look through and see if we've featured this before, and I still don't know. We've probably brought it up on the show before.
Maybe.
But we wanted to fully feature it here because I know we haven't fully featured it here. Something I thought was really interesting, I mean, there's lots of stuff that's interesting in this piece, but seeing the splashes of random colors is really interesting to me. For example, on her outstretched forearm there, she has like red splotches, and in her hair there's random red splotches, and it just seems kind of like, it's not necessarily paint because it's not actual paint, just thrown around all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, in general, the colors and the painting really style in this piece is very well done. It's interesting because in this piece, the primary color that's used to kind of make it pop is this blue cyan, like really bright, and I guess I don't know if it's really saturated, but it's definitely a very eye-catching color. Whereas in our first piece that we featured, kind of the more eye-catching color was this purple, which really separated out vinyl from the background. But in this piece, like the background is kind of this purplish color, and the like, for instance, her glasses, the purple in her glasses is very subdued compared to this blue that's very bright.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of that comes from the fact that different things are emphasized based on the colors. You know, in our first piece, like you said, the blue was the main color, quote unquote. Therefore, her mane didn't really stand out, and it was more about the purple accents that stood out. And so it was focusing on the turntable and the energy going into the turntable. Whereas this one, she is the thing that stands out because there's a lot of purple in this piece.
Yeah.
So her blue stands out, and she's the focal point. She's bringing the energy. And something else that's different about this one as opposed to our first one is that there's a lot more motion in her body. She's moving forward. Her hooves have obvious energy going forward, you know. So I think it's just a change in focus about what is supposed to be conveying the energy of the piece. In the first one, it was the impact on the turntable, and in this one, it's her making a motion.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is one of those ones that, even though it's digital, it kind of looks like it's traditional, and I would really love to see this one done traditionally. I reckon it would be amazing if it was done with actual paint.
Yeah, I could imagine something like this being done in a watercolor, almost.
Watercolor, or even like thick acrylic or poster paint. It would just,
Yeah.
like, just splodges of paint just flicked onto the canvas. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Someone who has paintbrushes, do it.
It's interesting in this piece. Once again, we see this kind of separation from where the focus is and where it's not, where you get this kind of really undetailed background, and even the turntable is very undetailed. The swing arm for the reed head on the record is very, it's just like 2 lines, and like, you know, very minimalistic detail on the whole background and setting and stuff like that. And Vinyl herself is a bit more detailed, but still it's not like Denny Butt's piece where everything is very clear and sketched out and whatever. And it kind of gives this piece a much more emotional feel to it, and it's more about the action and the motion in it than the actual like character and setting itself.
You can't even contain the colors within the lines. So much energy in this piece.
Yeah, she's Hadoukening the record. I mean,
There is like blue crazy energy coming off her hoof.
yeah.
Isn't it a Shoryuken? Like a Hadouken's the ball that it shoots, but isn't the
Yeah.
Shoryuken the uppercut?
Yeah, one of those.
Ooh.
I didn't play.
I didn't play it either.
I didn't play the Tekken.
Anyway,
I know it's Street Fighter. Don't.
Yeah.
More parts that I enjoy about this piece. I think you mentioned it with like the speckles of paint, or like someone like flicked paint on it, but the red really stands out to me, like in the, like on the edge of her elbow and like hoof, and there's touch of it in like her hair, and then especially in her glasses, and they're all kind of reflecting each other. I think that's one of the parts that really catches me. And then also the orange used in the shading in areas of her hair, so like around her horn, like in her ear, and then in parts on her, like the lower part of her body. Is like that orange really stands out to me, I think, because of how bright that cyan is, because like blue and the orange are kind of, you know, they're complements, so they kind of stand out from each other. And there is the dark, more normal blue in her hair and other parts all around in the piece, not the blue green or the one that's, you know, popping.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of crazy colors going on in this piece, and technically even the background is a muted orange. It's like, it's darker and we wouldn't think of it like, oh, that's orange, but it's technically actually orange, being like complementing all the crazy colors around her. So
Interesting.
it's all really cool stuff.
I think what it does in general is it makes it, even though we talked about the purple being a little bit muted, overall none of the colors in this piece are muted. They're all kind of bouncing around in their own interesting way. Even the composition is showing this circular composition, and it's almost like a vortex is around what she's doing, and it's really interesting how it manages to stand out and give the sense of a lot of emotion, a lot of motion, without doing like a huge crazy pose or throwing in action lines like everyone likes to do. You know, this is very subtle motion being given off by about 20 different things.
Well, I wouldn't call
Technically,
it
all the
subtle
crazy
motion.
colors like swirling around are almost becoming the action lines, you know.
Almost. Yeah.
Right.
But it's all in the color used and how it's painted. It's the brush.
You know what I mean
brush
by
stroke.
action lines, though. You know.
I totally know what you mean.
Yeah.
That's interesting with that background, the way that it's sort of curved like that, the composition of that, and that it goes behind her front two legs really makes it look like she's coming out at you. Like it gives it that 3D effect, which is really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Part of it is the fact that it's just the teensiest, tiniest bit over her back leg. You know, like she's got this aura around her back leg, and it goes over that. So because we've got context for her back leg is behind it, a part of her tail is behind it, but the rest of her isn't. Again, it kind of makes it 3D.
Plus that
Yeah.
giant forehoof.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you get that sense of depth.
Foreshortening.
What?
I'll foreshorten you.
Oh.
Probably some sort of artistic term that has to do with artificial depth.
It is. Exactly. It's exactly what it is. Foreshortening is making things appear smaller as they like travel like farther back in space to create the illusion of depth. So the fact that her hoof is really large in front and then her other hooves are smaller is called foreshortening.
Interesting.
Cool. Today I learned.
Had no idea. But yeah, it's interesting because like the pose that that Vinyl's in, especially with her tail being wrapped like that, it kind of gives way to this whole like framing nature of this vortex. I guess we're gonna call it from now on. That's surrounding her, which I don't know. Everything is just making it pop really nicely.
Colors.
One thing that I noticed, which is kind of interesting, is there's a slight use of hatching in the shading, like in her mane and in her rear hoof. And I'm not sure if that was like intentional hashing or if it was just kind of done very quickly. But it just, I don't know, it caught my eye as something that was a little bit different from the rest of the piece. All right, so we're gonna move on to our last piece, which is called Vinyl Scratch by Space Kid, who we featured in our Crab Battle Part 2 episode.
Space Kid.
Yeah.
It's also another episode with tremendously varied title names for the
Yeah.
artists.
So the description is drop the bass. I'm assuming she was fishing and
Oh yeah.
no.
Well, Vinyl Scratch is known for her tremendous fishing ability.
Yeah.
Love
As we
fishing.
see from the show.
Yeah. No, so this piece again
As is
features features Vinyl Scratch at a turntable, and once again we get this warping kind of effect on the turntable itself. She's kind of upgraded her turntable though. Now it's a digital turntable with like actual kind of rubber scratch pads
Fake.
instead of
Neutron.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you use the word digital, because I think something that's been quite consistent across all of these art pieces is that they're very overtly digital. It's kind of like they look like they're made digitally, so it looks very new per se, you know,
Yeah.
like futuristic. And I think Vinyl Scratch as a character kind of gives off that vibe of like new, young, future generation kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of things, especially in this piece, that kind of bring everything together, and it kind of culminates all this new kind of stuff. For example, there's a lot of bloom, glow. There's some interesting lighting effects on the little knobs and there's textures and the backgrounds and stuff. And I don't know, it just brings together a lot of like newer digital styles that I'm seeing more and more nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the Vinyl Scratch logo that Space Kid has come up with. That's on the two screens on the turntable and also kind of behind her. It's very
He made it himself.
yeah. It's very Skrillex-esque.
Yeah.
I guess that will draw comparisons. It's inevitable.
Yeah. Something that I really like in this piece is the whole line width, the variation on the line width. Basically, anything that is kind of more towards the viewer, like for instance, Vinyl's right hoof, or like her body, or I guess even her ear a little bit has a much thicker line than like if you look how her arm goes. As it goes closer to her body, the line which kind of shrinks a little bit. It's kind of interesting, and it's done in a couple of places to kind of give, I don't know, an interesting effect. Kind of a little bit of depth to the
Does
piece.
a lot of things.
Her tongue is
Yeah.
a love heart.
Aw.
That's adorable.
Adorbs.
She's also got stars in her eyes.
This is the first
Yeah.
one I've shown with her glasses off.
Yeah.
That's true.
It also manages to delicately skirt around the eye color
Yeah.
issue with the gradient.
Do you guys remember what it's called when there's like a star in the eye or something? No, there's a term
starry-eyed?
for like
Stigmatism.
no, there's
No.
a term for when irises do something funny and like they are hearts or stars. But in this case, her iris
yeah.
isn't actually a star. It's just like a reflection is a star like in her eye, which
Yeah.
is cool. I like the little stylistic choice. Space Kid as an artist does a lot of really cool little like stylized things. Like this piece is extremely stylized for the thing you were talking about, like line width and weight and stuff and all the lots of textures and I don't know, designs, overlapping things. Like I believe there's something written behind her, but I'm not sure. Maybe
It's the
it
same
says
logo
Space
that's on
Kid.
the.
It's the logo. It's Final Scratch.
Vinyl scratch. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
It's the same logo that's on her turntables.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But yeah, how it's overlapping the background and like being behind her and being presented. It's all really cool done. Then he likes pointy things, like
Yes.
in the like all of her eyelash and lines in her eye and then hair and then
Her horn,
her
too.
logo is all like really pointy, with the exception of I guess the bits on the turntable.
Yeah. But her nose and her horn are also kind of pointy as well. It's kind of an aspect of like all or nothing. So, either go full point or go super smooth,
Oh, I mean,
like we see with the outstretched hoof.
an idea with that is that the pointiness sort of conveys like, I guess, youthfulness and energetic. Whereas like if you put a lot of curves and stuff into like the logo, like her name and even like the character itself and the reflections and stuff, you don't really get that. Like if you look at the records where the reflection is sort of like smooth and curved, it doesn't look as sort of energetic as she does.
Doesn't quite stand out as
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
pointiness gives energy.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's I guess how you would describe it is organic versus geometric.
Yeah.
Is kind of how it sometimes is described because she doesn't have, like you were saying, she doesn't have all those like kind of slow like looping curvy lines with the exception of like her hoof and ear. But
Yeah. The whole like geometric kind of, I guess, style is something that's really kind of prominent in, I guess, the type of music that people in the fandom associate with Final Scratch too.
Yeah. That's an interesting point.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to the eyes because they're really, really well done. Not just the star in the center of her pupil, but she's got these like bits of highlights and accents all the way around the bottom part, which gives her a very digital kind of look, like almost, I know someone mentioned Tron, but like kind of space aged or something like that, which
neon.
yeah, it's really, really cool.
Now we're just throwing around buzzwords. Synergy.
cloud.
Yes. Yeah. No. There's a cool aspect in the eyes and in the glasses too, where there's just some really cool extra effort put in, and it's just small little details that really make the character. Eyes are so important, and we've talked about the fact when you take out those when you take out the eye shine, so in this case, there's really complex eye shine. When you take that out, eyes look super, super lifeless. It's creepy. A lot of times photographers will specifically set up lights so you can get eye shine. Because if you don't get eye shine, you look really strange. So eye shine is a great way to convey different emotions and convey a different sense of, lifelikeness, So having the stars and then you have those little like cuts in, and then you have the little tiny circles. There's a lot of different variety in there, and it's just all crazy and it's all over the place. And that contributes a lot to how the eyes will be taken in and used as a part of her expression. Eyes are so important. It's crazy how important they are. You guys have no idea how much you think ponies are cute just on their eyes.
Oh yeah, well the
I
whole
agree.
breezies The whole Breezy's thing, the reason that they were really cute is because their eyes took up like what 75% of their face.
But it's not
Also,
just the
who
size
was
too; it's how they're done.
speaking?
Yeah, also Swedish, so that works too. But yeah, like eyes are like super super important. It's hard to say they're the most important because stuff like that is kind of dependent on the piece, but they're always important. And it's interesting that we talk about that when in an episode where the character usually wears glasses. But I think the glasses also express a lot too, because the glasses aren't just simple things. They have a lot of expression to them as well. The shape of them, the reflections that we've seen in these pieces, the the color that stands out. It's like pseudo eyes. It does the same kind of thing where it gives the character expression, it gives the character emotion.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to talk about really quickly before we wrap up on the art is the framing in this piece, because there's this black frame that goes around the top left and right borders of it, and it kind of gives this kind of a popping feel to it because the logo, the turntable are all outside of that frame, and Vinyl herself is within the frame, but it kind of feels like because the logo is behind her, that she is popping out of this frame, even though she's contained within it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's true. It gives it a very like pop art or poster feel because of that deliberate black framing and then things overlapping it.
Yeah, and also with the texture on the background.
Yeah,
as well.
And of course, it would go with remiss if we did not mention, I don't know, I guess the inspirations. It's definitely got this aspect, this anime aspect to it, I think. There's definitely some inspirations pulled from there for a lot of his pieces.
Yeah. Also, she's just so cute. Look at that face.
It's feisty though, because of the pointy lines and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Well, feisty
crook
cute.
in her tooth.
Yeah. Yeah. So, fantastic pieces of art all around. Shall we move on to the questions?
Braces.
There was a lot of good vinyl art
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, it's true.
Should be cuter if she had braces. Okay, questions. Something I keep hearing about from the artists is their lack of motivation. But you guys have constantly produced a show week after week, interacting with fans, artists, journals, events, conventions. You guys just keep going! Exclamation point. What keeps you guys motivated?
By who sent that in?
By Johan's Robot.
Johan.
Mhm.
Johan.
Johan.
Yeah.
Johan.
Johan.
Johan's Robot.
All right,
Yeah.
can we get the TLDR on that?
You guys
Again?
have been doing this podcast for longer than I've been drawing ponies. What keeps you motivated?
Okay. So I guess what we're talking about here is we're talking about general motivation. We've talked a lot about how artists can get motivated, so I'm not going to go over that again. But what do you guys think? What
What? No.
what keeps you motivated to do this podcast?
Well, yeah, that's not really general motivation. That's kind of specific. But what keeps me motivated is these guys. Really,
It's all me.
Yeah, no,
It's
it's
my
his
questions.
accent.
My questions,
It's true. No, I mean, I don't know. It's like I enjoyed looking at art, and I've had such a, or I've grown to have such a large appreciation for art, mostly thanks to Burned, and his teachings. So I do enjoy like looking for art and trying to find art for the show and kind of picking themes and whatnot. And the interaction with fans is always amazing too. But I don't know. It's just, it's fun to hang out with Rainbow Plasma, Burned, and Atmospark. Like, I don't know.
I'd
still
agree with
fun.
that. When we started the show, we kind of it was kind of like a reason to hang out. Like that was it, because Burned is usually busy during the week. Atmospark is in another freaking time zone, so we never see him. So I mean, like besides like Flutter Guy and I, who see each other regularly, we never really got together and talked that much. But the podcast was kind of a way for us to do that. So I think a lot of that comes into play when it comes to motivating, because I want to see and I want to talk to these guys on a regular basis. So I mean, the fans definitely help keep it going. But I don't know. There's just something about we're also really organized about it nowadays.
Mm.
Like even though it might not seem it, or even if we joke that we're not super organized, it's because we're not noticing how organized we are and how good we've gotten at doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So because it's easy to do nowadays, I mean, why not do it, right?
Yeah.
You know, people want to
a
see
regimen.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know that I'm never ever going to get to sleep on a Saturday morning.
Sorry about that.
Ah, you baby. You don't sleep in anyways.
No. But I know I can't.
Yeah.
Motivations for me, I've always been like a really creative person. I've always loved being creative, making stuff, art, sculpturing, anything really with my hands. And sometimes I just can't draw for whatever reason. So those who can't do teach, right? Totally joking, by the way, to all the teachers out there. It helps me sort of release my creative inner without picking up a pencil or a brush or a tablet or a
And getting
mouse.
frustrated.
Yeah.
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 But I mean, I do still make vectors and art and stuff, which is fun.
Yeah.
I still love doing that.
Yeah.
I guess for me, what keeps me motivated is one, what you guys mentioned, like being able to come here and talk to you guys has always been awesome every Friday. But another thing is just really like passion, you know. That's you kind of joked about buzzwords earlier, but for me that's like my biggest motivational buzzword is passion, because like I'm ridiculously passionate about a lot of things, and one of those things for me has been ponies, and it's been art because of this show. Like I couldn't give two junks about art like back in the day. But then all of a sudden I start like making the show and I start looking at art, and then all of a sudden I start caring. It's just being passionate about things really what keeps me going. That and like being passionate about teaching. Like I really enjoy teaching or sharing knowledge. It's always been something I've enjoyed doing. So it's enjoyment, it's passion, and there's no shortness of motivation in doing that. I don't find like, oh, I'm unmotivated to do things because like they're things that I don't know, I really love doing, or I love coming on the show and talking and pretending to be smart and talking about stuff I know.
Yeah. I think
Something I love doing.
in general, when it comes to motivation, because people ask us about motivational stuff all the time, whether it's about us or it's about artists, I find that you need to find what motivates you, you know? So whatever that might be, you just need to find what personally motivates you. And, you know, you'll know you found it when you stop thinking about what motivates you. You know, I mean, we can look back at it retrospectively now, but, you know, we're not thinking every single week, this is what motivates me. You know, we're not trying to push through everything.
Yeah.
We found something that we enjoyed doing, and it just becomes natural after a while. So that's what you got to do. You got to find something that motivates you. And I think Byrne brought up a very good point about passion, but we should probably move on to the next question.
Oh, wait. I wanted to mention that I think the thing that motivates me the most is probably knowing that something or basically trying to get Burned onto one of his rants about something technical, because it's always interesting like what you're talking about when it's a technical rant, and it's always like very passionate like you were talking about. So I think that's kind of my passion with this podcast, is like trying to find something that like sets you off on one of those tangents and stuff, much to the dismay of Rainbow Plasma.
It's not dismay as long as he keeps track of the time. Speaking of keeping track of the time.
Okay, so next question then.
Yeah.
Nice, short, quick, easy, fun one. What is your favorite Pokemon sent in by Silver Rainbutts? Clouds.
You got your
Oh,
Cloud to Bud
Lord.
extension on again.
Yeah, Cloud to Bud extension. It's the best extension on Chrome.
Yeah, so Flutter Guy and I'm pretty sure Burn too, right? Burn, you haven't really played Pokemon, have you?
I have not played any of the Pokemon games, with the exception of some cruddy game on my 64 when I was young. But I used to play basically like playground Pokemon, where I never played the game, I just traded the cards. So I have a very extensive collection of foil and holo Pokemon cards that I use as tokens when I play Magic the Gathering. So I do have a knowledge of what I thought was the coolest thing back in the day.
Cool.
I will tell you that.
Well,
Nice.
why don't you start then?
All right. Well, back when I was young, I freaking loved Scyther. Like, Scyther was the best because he was cool. Because he had friggin' scythes. Ninetales was always the coolest one on the block.
No, you get one. You get one choice burned.
But when I was a kid, I liked Scyther. Now I don't know what I like, man. I have all these tokens and they're all shiny.
Well, you get Scyther's a good choice. Scyther's a good choice.
Yeah, we'll stick. I actually have a Scyther right here, ironically.
Yeah, there you go. Scyther.
Check it out.
All right. Well, what I was going to say was, Flutterguy, you have no idea about Pokemon.
Can I give my favorite choice to Burn so he can have a second favorite?
No, you can't.
I like Eevee's too. Eevee's pretty solid.
Stop! All right.
Honestly, like, I have no idea. I got one pack of trading cards as like a birthday, like a gift pack kind of thing, and
Such a cop-out birthday present.
it wasn't a birthday present. It was like in a gift bag at the end of a birthday party.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know. I have never played any of the games or traded any of the cards.
Someone research and choose a Pokemon for Flutterguy. That's your mission. All right.
Chansey.
Atmospheric?
Shiny Charizard. Not really. Because that's what everybody picks. Because it's black, yay. My favorite, really hard to decide, but I think I'm going to go with Jolteon. Because I love the electric and the fire types, and Jolteon's also kind of my name. Also says Joltik.
Oh, yeah. Joel.
No Zapdos?
Zapdos. I've only just recently, like, in the last couple of months, got into Pokemon. Thank you, Silver. So, yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Jolteon.
Cool.
Also, shout out to /r/Church of Goomy, because Goomy is awesome.
One day, we're going to have a question that's simple, and people are going to give one answer.
Nah.
I have
One
a shiny
day.
dark Persian that's really cool.
Shut up, Vern!
I just like, I love all the
All right.
Eevees.
All right, well, you mocked people who liked Black Charizard, so you're not going to like my answer. It's not Black Charizard,
Meg
but I've always, ever since it came out, I've loved Lucario's design.
Ooh.
So my favorite Pokemon is Lucario, even
Nailed
though it's everyone's favorite Pokemon on the internet.
Nailed it.
So yeah, Lucario for my answer.
Although I did say Mega
There
Lucario. So.
you go. So I will. We will have to send the pictures of these Pokemon to our co-hosts after the podcast so they can know what the heck we're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, until then, we are just going to wrap up this podcast. So does someone want to rapid fire the plugs out?
Okay. Email address, cutie@crusaders@gmail.com. DeviantArt is cutie@crusaders.deviantart.com. Facebook, cutie@crusaders, and Twitter @cutie@crusade.
God, that was good.
Wow, nice.
Do those things,
been
go there and
relaxing.
send stuff.
Next week, Crab Battle Part 3.
Yeah.
Just
Submit
quickly,
stuff
because we
before
didn't mention it
Friday.
earlier, if you're going to send in stuff to our email for Crab Battle, put Crab Battle in the title. Or 100th episode, if you're sending stuff in, put 100th episode in the title.
Please do.
I mean,
Yeah.
subject.
You
Sweet.
have 3 days.
Yay.
So there's your next week's theme. Sorry, last week I forgot to edit in the theme, but this week you know what it is. It's Crab Battle Part 3. So there you go.
Crabbening.
That, yes. Anyways, look forward to that next week. And that's everything for this week. So thank you guys for watching, whether or not you're on the live stream or on YouTube. We have mixed feelings about you, but we think that there's something there all the same. My name is Rainbow Plasma,
I'm Burno 1.
I'm Flutterguy317.
Admiral Spark.
and we'll see you guys next week.
Can't stop flipping cards.
Bye.
Stop the music.
Hello and welcome to the 20th spoiler cast done by the Cutie Crusaders for My Little Pony Season 4. My name is Flutterguy317 and today I am joined by Rainbow Plasma,
Hello.
Burndo1,
Hello.
and Atmospark.
Sup?
So today we're going to be spoiler casting Season 4 Episode 21, Testing 1 2 3.
Good
which
title, by the way.
Yeah, fantastic title. It was written by Amy Keating Rogers, actually. which I found out afterwards.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of new writers, so occasionally it's nice to kind of go back to an old classic.
Yeah.
Someone who's super
Definitely.
experienced with the characters, that kind of thing. And it really showed this episode.
Yeah. So this episode basically shows Rainbow Dash trying to study for her history test for the Wonderbolts, some new recruitment league or whatever thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've
I
got some
wasn't
sort of
paying
new...
attention. I was watching ponies.
Yeah, there's some sort of Wonderbolts reserves, I guess they're doing now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just adding on to the whole she can't be a Wonderbolt, but close enough kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess she's trying out for that, and part of it comes with a history test.
Yeah.
Just to know the future, you have to know the past, and blah, 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 blah. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because those who don't know the history are doomed to repeat it.
Correct.
Yeah. Good lesson. But not the one that was learned here. Yeah, so Twilight kind of gets this idea that she needs to teach Rainbow Dash all there is to know about the history of the Wonderbolts. And Rainbow Dash doesn't really want anything to do with it until she realizes that she could potentially not become a Wonderbolt. Or in the Wonderbolt Reserve. But Twilight basically tries a bunch of different teaching methods, and none of them really work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was an episode about how to teach different people, with obviously Rainbow Dash being the hardest one because none of the other methods worked. But it was interesting to see like 6 different methods of teaching that were kind of described in this episode. And it was funny because when they brought up the newer, like when they started with Twilight, they started out and you're like, yeah, okay, Rainbow Dash is probably not going to go with the same study methods as Twilight. But as they brought the other ones, I thought they would start getting through to her, but they also didn't. So it was interesting to see them bring up alternatives that didn't work as well. Like having Fluttershy's one. Like I thought maybe it was like, oh, she's more of a visual learner. So like this play makes a lot of sense. And then it's like, no, didn't get that either. You know, there's the Pinkie Pie rap, which we'll get to later. That didn't get to her.
Yeah.
Obviously, Rarities didn't, and Applejack is useless when it comes to teaching, apparently. But yeah, it was interesting to see a couple of methods that are completely legitimate methods still not work, and for them to not kind of throw around the, oh, well, she's hopeless kind of thing, and to find a really interesting solution that I never thought of for Rainbow Dash.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, if you think about school and, like, learning in school, there's a lot of the methods that Twilight used are kind of, like, pushed in the standard school system,
AKA
or at least they were when I went
methods.
through it. Yeah. But it was interesting to see some of, like, the alternative teaching methods to those, like the play and the rap and whatever Rarities was. With the fashion thing, because it is something that like a lot of school systems and teachers and stuff are learning now, is that everyone learns in their own way, and it's not really like something that you can do in a broad sense for everyone in the same way.
Yeah, I mean that's our generation, right? Our generation is the generation of individuality, right?
Yeah.
Everybody is. We're starting to come into this whole like everybody's different. Everybody does things very differently. You know, everybody's their own special little snowflake, that kind of thing. And I mean that's the kind of mark of this generation. And so teaching is one of those things that's having a hard time adjusting to it. So it's interesting to see an episode like this, which kind of teaches alternative. It's kind of got Twilight as that basis, as like the old school teaching, and then attempting to bring it together into more seeing some alternatives.
Yeah. So basically Rainbow Dash and Twilight kind of get into this big fight because her conventional teaching methods aren't working. And so Fluttershy tries to put on a play, which is pretty hilarious because it involves all of the animals.
It was
and Spike.
cute.
Yeah.
And Angel wasn't a butthole.
It's true.
Wow.
And neither was what's Rarity's cat's name?
Opal.
Opal.
Their blessings.
Yeah. They actually got along, which is
In an
surprising.
apathetic way.
Yeah.
Maybe they've just always wanted to be stars.
Yeah.
Right.
They
They're
make
just
you a
like,
star.
They just like the spotlight.
Yeah, well, I mean, they got to be the princesses, right?
Yeah.
So,
And then Opal got to take a nap on the moon for a brief second before it fell down.
I'm glad they decided to make a play with unruly animals as opposed to, ponies that might actually be able to speak
Yeah.
and properly teach it.
I was like, what is that? What are they doing? Well, they're animals, so I'll tell you.
It's like, well, what's the point of having the animals then?
Yeah.
Costumes are cute.
Because
Yeah.
Spike wanted to direct something.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Poor Spike though. He his set fell apart and then Rainbow Dash at the end was like the play didn't work and so he got all sad faced.
Poor who?
Oh.
I have no idea what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
No,
So, I mean, do you guys want to talk about the rap video? Because I want to talk about the kind of revelation about how Rainbow Dash learns and just generally about that a lot. So, do you guys want to talk about the rap video? Because that comes in between the two.
I was so confused
Yeah.
when that happened.
that was so
I was all
amazing.
like, Pinky, no, why? No.
It was great. Did you not like it? Does
No.
the person who likes Pinkie Pie out of
Really?
all of us not like the 90s
You
rap
didn't
video?
like the 90s rap
It
video.
was
I don't like
hilarious.
I don't like 90s
Yeah.
rap.
It was
Oh,
hilarious.
come on.
It was supposed to be mocking.
Yeah. It was so funny.
It was
They
like the
got,
old things that they showed in in classrooms when you were like a kid to attempt to get you to learn. It's like, what are you doing, teachers?
Have you ever seen the
Yeah.
Taco Bell training video? And
Yeah.
Yes, because Taco Bell's a thing in my country.
Well, it's
Oh.
the thing on the internet.
Yeah.
But
No, I
yeah,
have
like
not.
it was supposed to be like a mocking thing. I can't believe you of all people didn't like that.
Well, because I guess because I didn't grow up with that. There is
That
no such thing as
reference.
90s rap videos in our classrooms. So
Oh.
I guess not.
Yeah.
poor
Well, I mean,
Australia, man.
Yeah. Just
Frickin-
take any generic 90s rap and, you're all set.
Vanilla
So you
Ice.
have to be
That's
educated.
my
my
reference.
Yeah.
Hammer time.
Yeah. So a couple things about the rap. The background is all like this like bubbly graffiti that you see
Yeah.
that kind of started in the 90s and like all these like filtered and kind of over the top, not really effects, but just like backgrounds and
Well,
stuff.
the whole thing was like grainy and then turned into square, which was like nostalgic in itself
Yeah.
right there. It turned into a square ratio and then looked like it was on a VHS recorder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
4x3
4x3.
VHS.
I love it.
So I mean, I guess so. I've always, when you look back at things like the 60s, 70s, 80s, they all have definitive things. But I guess I never really thought about the 90s before. But that was the 90s. VHS, like grunge, graffiti, skateboard, and yet like not in like a gangster way, but more of like a wholesome skateboard, like wholesome rap and
Yeah.
wholesome skateboarding and weird stuff
Fresh
like that.
Prince
you
of
know?
Bel Air.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was like the Fresh Prince of Bel Air decade. It's so funny looking back at it now because I've never been able to like. I mean, there's always those like 90s kids remember this, but like I've never been able to like sum up the 90s in one video like you can the other ones. And this one was just like the perfect thing. It's like, wow, what?
It was literally so 90s. Like, I don't think you can get any more 90s than that.
Between like the underwear and the backwards ball caps and stuff, it was pretty ridiculous.
And they even had a shout out to Can't Touch This.
Yeah. And Pinkie Pie was wearing a clock.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Was.
So
Flavor
shout out to
Flav.
Flavor Flav.
Pink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got to see Vinyl Scratch doing some scratching.
Yeah, I mean, we planned that when we made the theme. It's
Oh, yeah.
because we have insiders at Hasbro who tell us
Yes.
exactly who's going to be.
All
So
part of the plan.
we're
Yeah.
just advertisers.
Those 3
apparently.
seconds of airtime. Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Completely there. Yeah, it was all us. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So Pinkie Pie just randomly skating. Pinkie Pie was wearing a, what would you call that? It's not a bowler hat. It's not a fedora. It's like a, we'll
God,
just
I
go
don't
with
know.
rap hat.
Rap hat.
I was gonna say something like a rapper toque, but I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's so not a toque.
I
It's
know.
not a toque, but
Get out of here, you
I learned that word.
Yeah.
Canadian.
American. Yeah. Yeah. So
And,
I
yeah.
mean, that was really funny. There was a couple other things, but like I don't know what the heck Rarity was doing. I feel like she was really shoehorned in this episode.
Yeah.
Her and
Well, she was trying
Applejack.
trying to go through the fashion to see if it sparked any interest in.
But it wasn't
Rainbow
even like
Dash's-
relevant. It was barely relevant to the actual points that were trying. Like the other ones, at least, were like attempting to get the information across.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I can totally understand where, like, you know, you're kind of apathetic about something, and then you see something that sparks your interest, and then all of a sudden you want to learn more about it. So maybe that's kind of what she was trying to do. But Rainbow Dash isn't really interested in fashion, so there's no way that would work.
Maybe
at all.
Yeah, I
Rarity just
guess,
likes to play dress up.
It's just like everyone's just like, look at me. This is how you learn.
I know.
Memorize the costumes. And then Applejack comes along, and she's just like, it's okay. This wouldn't work for me either. It's like, what does work? I don't know. Nothing. just thanks,
just
Applejack. You're so
Yeah.
helpful.
Uh,
I didn't learn anything.
See, this is like, this is why my favorite pony now is Applejack, because like, I find that I learn so much more in the field, like while I'm actually doing work and stuff like that, than like book learning or anything like that.
Book learning.
She has also just stopped caring about everything. She's just like, if it's not in the family, then let's just have fun with it.
Yeah.
She's so simultaneously like she comes back after everyone's like talking about their own like methods, right? She just comes back and she's like, hey, you know what might help you learn the Wonderbolts? A random apple fact.
Yeah. So Granny Smith found the first Granny Smith tree.
When did I subscribe to Apple Facts?
Cancel.
Thank you for subscribing to Apple Facts.
Please type Apple to unsubscribe.
Yeah.
Thank you for typing Apple. That means you want another Apple fact.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, I
no, right.
really enjoyed the way that they showed Rainbow Dash's kind of actual learning ability, because I think in a lot of cases like this, we don't get to see a positive side to someone who doesn't learn traditionally. Usually when I see or I hear of someone who doesn't learn in the traditional school way, it usually comes out that in the end they just found a way to make it work. But in this one, they kind of showed a completely alternative thing to do with multitasking and to do with what she really enjoyed doing, which is flying. I know, Flutter Guy, you and I had a conversation the other day about motivation and the fact that you can't shoehorn yourself into your own system. You have to find what works for you, and you have to make something a habit. And I think that kind of applies here. Rainbow Dash has had a habit of multitasking and kind of using flying as her thought and learning process. And so it was really cool to see that she does this kind of advanced stuff, because sometimes I think characters in shows can be shoehorned into like smart and dumb. And the whole point of this episode was to show that just because someone's not book smart doesn't mean they're not smart in other ways. So I think they pulled that off really well, better than I expected them to, honestly.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up a good point too. Is that a lot of people will try and work within the system even if like it's not in their best interest, like in the way that they learn. But as seen in this episode, like if you find the way that you yourself learn, then it's basically second nature to learn the stuff, which I think is very relatable to real life, to a lot of people at least.
Yeah, I think more and more people are realizing nowadays that they learn doing something or on the go much better than they do just learning the theory of it.
Yeah.
But they also planned out the revelation really well too. I'm just watching back the part where they're flying along in Twilight's, talking to Rainbow Dash, and the entire first time, I noticed the first time they went through it, before they did the whole rewind thing, I noticed that she was looking at the ground, but she wasn't just looking at the ground like depressingly. She was looking, and she was like, it was like she was looking at specific things.
Yeah.
Her eyes were
And-
glancing.
She was still listening to Twilight, and she was still understanding it, and she was still talking to her, but she was looking back and forth, and they cut to the ground, and I was like, that's a weird shot that they would cut to the ground. I wonder why they did that. And it comes back up, and she's still looking, she's still observing. So it was super planned out so that when they did do the rewind, they weren't just making stuff up that you didn't see. It was all there for you to see the first time.
Yeah. By the way, that rewind, another 90s hint, or
Only
kind of
90s kids remember.
Only
Yeah.
90s kids remember rewinds.
you don't rewind a DVD.
That's true.
What,
It's
you
very
don't?
true.
What?
No, you rewind a DVD, but it doesn't look like that.
Then the next person who borrows it from the video store has to rewind it.
That's how that works.
The next person
Yeah.
who gets it from Blockbuster.
Oh, too soon.
Aw.
It
Yeah.
still looks
So really?
That's sad.
Only in Australia.
Yeah.
Middle-earth.
So before we go too much into detail about the actual like planning out and the actual elevation or revelation and stuff, I wanted to bring up this flying machine that Twilight almost runs into because it is like
Oh, the ponycopter?
hilarious. Yeah.
Pretty much a toy.
Yeah. It is so just funny looking and like
Yeah.
out of place.
I'm pretty positive it is a toy, though.
It would
Yeah.
have been
That-
better if it was the pickycopter.
Yeah.
That one pony is like isn't that the same pony you did like the hot air balloon? She wants to fly. She's like, I was a Pegasus
She's an
born
aviation
inside of the
pony.
Earth pony's body.
Yeah.
She's not like a
she's
flying
just-
Pegasus. She's an Earth aviation pony. Think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's doing everything in her power to fly.
She's
See,
an
what what other little things? There was the screen transitions in the beginning of the episode that I really liked, like
Yeah.
the highlighter and the pencil when they were kind of just like going through the whole like failing and teaching like scenario. I like that a lot because I hadn't really
Yeah.
seen that before. Where it was just like, what caught me off guard is when it highlights the screen away. It was one of those. I don't think it was a 90s screen transition, but it was a screen transition that really like stood out. It was like, I haven't seen this before in use in the show.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
creative screen transition. I think sometimes people, when it comes to editing, can get a bit lazy with that. I mean, like I know, because we have to produce a podcast on a tight schedule. We just do fade in and out. But
Don't just
it's
the good
really
old
cool
fades.
to see. Well, yeah, because we're not like super epic video quality isn't the main part of our thing. But in a show like this, video quality is much higher standard. So it's nice to see them be a little bit creative about that. And
Yeah.
I'm sure someone had fun editing that in.
Oh yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. The
I think
whole scene was kind of fun.
yeah. The whole rainbow rocking back
Yeah,
and forth
the little
and then,
music ensemble going on.
yeah. She was so adorable in that.
Some of those faces
It
were
was
great.
the return of Adora Dash,
Yeah.
which is just to say that she was in an episode.
Because she's always adorable.
Yeah.
Were there any other little things that stood out to you guys?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the couple things with Twilight. As many people know, I love Alicorn Twilight. And a couple things that I really enjoyed about this episode. There were three things. First of all, they explicitly mentioned the fact that she's getting taller. Rainbow
Yeah.
Dash kind of mocked the fact that she was getting taller, and she's like, "I'm not that tall." They had a part where she was landing on a cloud, and was like, still not used to landing on clouds, which was really
Yeah.
cute. And finally, just the general theme of having people talk and do stuff in the air. I mean, we have Rainbow Dash and we have Fluttershy, who are our two traditional Pegasi, right? But how many conversations do they have, right? Especially in the air. Fluttershy's not exactly entranced with flying too much, so it's usually just Rainbow Dash in the air talking to someone else. It was really cool to see Twilight kind of just flying around with her, having like a flying buddy. You know, I know a lot of people who watch the show love the aspect of flight that's in the show, so we need to see more of it because I think it's really cool. And so it's
Yeah.
nice to see that Rainbow Dash has kind of got like a flying buddy now, and I'd love to see more interactions between them in the air.
Yeah, definitely. I love how they portrayed Rainbow Dash's flying as so like natural and Twilight's as so unnatural. How she's like still learning, and like there was one part where she like almost slipped in the air. And then there was also another part where she was trying to catch up to Rainbow Dash and was like out of breath. And so I think they're doing that really, really well in that, like, because she's a novice at it. So whereas like Rainbow Dash in this episode was a novice at the history thing. So it was kind of interesting to see that connection there.
Yeah.
The last
Yeah.
cute thing that I wanted to point out was when they're doing their like adorable little play on the ground where they're all doing like the history for Rainbow Dash. With the ponies at the end when they're like the characters in history or whatnot, they had one of the like background characters fly across and her voice was just like god awful. Do you remember that? And it was
Yeah.
like it was specifically played to be just like as awful as possible, just as like part of that joke. And I thought that was really good. It made me laugh. It's like Captain Awful.
And I like that one of the founding Pegasi was Cloud Chaser.
Yeah, they had, yeah. I remember.
Also, we learned today that Firefly is 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
Not Firefly.
Shout out to G1 Firefly. One last thing I just wanted to mention that I thought was really well done is how they introduced all of the different characters. Because it started out as just a Twilight and Rainbow Dash episode, and then slowly you added Fluttershy, and then Pinkie Pie, and then Rarity, and then Applejack. So you had the full cast of the main six, which I thought was really well done. So.
Yeah.
But all right, we do have to wrap up. So thank you guys for watching, and tune in next week to catch Spoilercast. Oh, not next week because there's no episode next week.
Isn't
so
there?
tune in.
Nope.
No.
Aww.
No. Tune in next week for Cutie Crusaders though, which is Crab Battle Part 3, the re-fan crab. And then we'll be back the week after that for spoiler casting episode 22 of season 4. So my name is Flutterguy317,
I'm Rainbow Plasma.
Burned.
I almost bark.
and we'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Well, not really spoiler alert, because it's like a special like side thing, but it's from the new Equestria Girls movie. It's kind of like I guess it's a
Kind of like a teaser.
Yeah.
That'll be why I haven't seen it then.
yeah.
It's a spoiler.
it's like a
I avoid
teaser.
spoilers.
It's not really a spoiler though, because
It's not a spoiler,
I
though.
don't think that
It's like
is
a
actually
commercial or advertisement for it. Like
Yeah.
a
But
movie
no,
trailer.
but that's a bad example though, because a lot of times commercials can give away spoilers. But this is like a completely separate thing. It's just the music video is, you know, in the world, in the whatever anthro world of high school teenage ponies.
Yeah.
There's just the Vinyl Scratch character walking around, and she puts on headphones, and like dubstep starts blaring, and like
Yeah.
as she's walking by, like things are happening around her that matches the music, and that's basically it.
Oh.
Yeah. It's actually
So,
really well done.
It has nothing to do with like
There's
the-
no
the
plot points
actual-
or anything like that.
not even close. Like
Yeah.
there's not even hints.
Okay,
or anything.
good,
It's
'cause
just
that's
like
why
a
I watch
separate
it.
thing. Yeah.
I watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a completely separate thing.
Yeah. So anyhow, we'll get on to the art. Our first piece is called Vinyl Scratch Print by Hobbs Maxwell. And this is probably one of the most famous pieces of art featuring Vinyl Scratch, in which she's basically smashing/scratching a record. And what's cool about this is the whole like warped perspective on the turntable that she's got in front of her. Because it's basically kind of curved from the left. And I mean, if you've ever seen a turntable, they're not curved.
It doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely heavily exaggerated.
It's quite
Yeah.
vinyl smash.
Yes.
Well, it was a good try.
Because
Yeah.
it looks like she's hitting it so hard that it's bent the sides of the thing up and the record
Yeah,
is
it's-
flying off.
Hello and welcome to the Cutie Crusaders, episode 92 for April 8th, 2014. My name is Rainbow Plasma. I'm the organizer and host of this week's podcast, and today I'm joined by...
Burn to One, specialist coordinator. And I'm also this week's Coneditor.
Wow.
Wow, great going. I'm Flutterguy317, and I am the podcast's media manager.
Great going? What? You're... Okay.
Thanks, Dave.
Atmos Park, can you please attempt to do this coherently?
Who, me? I'm not coherent.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Atmo Spark, and I do the stuff with the things. What do I do? Questions and DeviantArt.
Hey!
Only specialists here.
We are so organized.
We
Welcome
are
to the
such
special
profesh.
podcast,
Wow.
apparently.
Much
Jeez,
wow.
guys. Good job. Good job.
So this past week, for whoever was in the stream, I was away on a business trip, and it was kind of fun. I don't really have anything to talk about it for it, but I just thought I would mention it. And
We're going on a lot of trips lately, just like random last minute trips. You and Burned.
yeah.
Random last minute trips, mans.
Emerald City Comic Con, man.
Yeah, Bo just sends us a message one day. It's like, yeah, sorry guys, I'm going to Germany.
Yeah.
It's true. Last like 3 or 4 months, everybody's been going on crazy random trips.
Yeah. So I got to go down to Atlanta, Georgia, which the weather was a lot warmer than here, so that was nice. And
Atlanta.
Yep.
I got one coming up,
does
so I may
Atlanta
or may
have
not be on an
something like-
episode coming up.
Oh yeah, you have a trip too, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, everybody's going places. I'm moving soon.
Yeah.
I'm moving out of my apartment soon, so
I'm
that should be fun.
gonna be going to BabsCon here in April. That'll be fun.
Yay.
Yeah, everybody's going on trips.
Yeah.
Got BabsCon. Shout out.
Shout out to BabsCon.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And if you see
Francisco
Burn
Bay
there,
Area.
say hi.
Smack him in the face first.
Please, it would be fantastic.
Just a good open palm.
Yeah.
Not too hard.
No,
Just to get
do
a
it,
good
do it so
noise.
that you leave a handprint on his cheek.
Can we not tell random like strangers to abuse me physically? That'd be
Yeah.
great.
You know,
No.
it's funny because I was totally like, nah, no, it's a joke. But then I realized that a lot of people
Would
who
actually
like
do it.
watch online stuff sometimes take jokes way too far. So don't slap Burned.
Please don't smack Burn in the face.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Give him a high five.
Don't slap Burned. Don't abuse Burned. We can do it because we're his friends.
A punch
You
in the
can't.
small of the back is
What is
fine.
this?
Just
You're not.
don't slap his face.
This is like
Wow.
abuse Burn day. Jeez.
Yeah. No,
guy.
don't abuse Burned. Some people, I guess that's a very good point. Some people don't know their boundaries sometimes. When you listen to people on the internet a lot of times you can get that feeling where you're like, oh, we're really close because, I listen to them every week or listen to them every day. And, you get this kind of close environment with them. I've totally gotten that with some like YouTubers that I watch, but you really got to be careful. Like you don't actually like,
You don't know
I've
that.
listened to
there's
your
definitely
voice
a line.
every day for the past year, but I
Gav
don't
and I
know
are
you.
like this.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that like the same stuff that we say amongst each
I'm
other.
gonna go up to a YouTuber and just be like, I know you, but you don't know me.
And then just fade into the bush behind you.
Just
Like
fade
that.
into the other fans.
just
back
just
slowly.
remember, I'll be listening.
keep
I'll
eye
be
contact and
here
just
always.
back out into the crowd.
Yeah. So
That'd be pretty memorable.
yeah.
Speaking of memorable
Yeah.
things,
Speaking of memorable things, Crab Battle Part 3. Burn, do you want to talk about it?
Crab
Yeah,
bottle
crab.
plot tree.
Crab Battle Part 3, I believe, is our next episode, right?
correct?
Mhm.
Yep. So as of the 11th is when we'll be recording that episode. So what is the due date for any Crab Battle art that you would like to make to be seen in that featured episode?
In 3 days from the
Spectacular
time this airs.
stuff.
Yep,
Yay.
correct. So the Friday after this airs, April the 11th, make sure you get those in. We've gotten some really good submissions,
We
so
have.
we're super happy that you guys have taken it upon yourselves to go and help us out for this kind of episode. So good on you, but keep them coming in. We will. There's nothing is set in stone, so we're still looking for all types of submissions.
You have 3 days.
Do it now. We really, really enjoy seeing you guys submitting that art, and it's absolutely amazing artwork, and it's gonna be a fun episode, I think.
Yeah, should be fun.
Yeah.
And
We've also got episode 100 coming up.
yeah,
Speaking of fan participation, after next week, it's only going to be one thing. I know I kind of get on people's cases when we have more than one thing that we're requesting from you guys. But I know you guys are up for the challenge. And after next week, we'll only have this one thing. But just to remind people as well, to send in text submissions and or voice submissions for our episode 100. So you can send in and answer the questions, what have you learned from the Cutie Crusaders, and what have you enjoyed about the Cutie Crusaders, so that we can put you in the episode for episode 100. That, on the other hand, has not been getting a lot of submissions, so maybe submit now, and you will have a higher chance of being on the show.
Yeah. Do that.
So yeah.
yep,
We've only got like
And you
one
can
of each at the moment.
yeah. You can submit everything to our email address.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that'll be going on for the next couple months or so.
Like
we'll let you
6,
know
7
when that
weeks.
episode's coming up. Yeah,
Yeah.
6 weeks or so.
Yep.
Well, this is episode 92, so in 8 weeks.
Yeah, it's not perfect though.
Yeah.
It's not perfect though because of recording schedules. Anyways, yeah, you've got those couple things you can send in. You guys should know all about that by now. Yeah.
All right,
Good
so
deal.
our theme for this week is Vinyl Scratch, aka DJ Pony, aka DJ Pone 3.
No, don't.
DJ dash
Don't.
Pone 3.
It's
Pwn
not
squared,
DJ Pony. I mean,
cubed,
look, okay. I'm not gonna make any bold statements about what it is or it isn't.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, DJ Pwn 3 is a stupid sounding name.
It's DJ
Aw,
Pony, but the E is a 3 because it's cool.
You're a
but it's
stupid
still
sounding name.
It's
Yeah,
still
there you go.
pronounced DJ Pony, and it still sounds better when you pronounce it
I always
DJ Pony.
pronounced it
In
It
your
is DJ
vernacular.
Pony, but people
Three.
like type DJ Pony 3 because that's what it is.
No, but people say DJ Pony
Really?
3.
I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard many people say DJ Pony
I
3.
do.
I say DJ.
People.
Thank you, Burned.
Yeah, you guys have
Ted and I are gonna go
taste.
over here in our cool corner.
We're gonna
guys have no
do
taste.
the cool show.
What we can agree on, what we can generally agree on is that Vinyl Scratch is a pretty good name for it.
Yes.
So we can we're just going to call it Vinyl Scratch because it's a good name from all people's perspectives.
I'm going to say
Yeah.
DJ Pony
So-
because she is the DJ.
Yeah. So Vinyl
All
Scratch is the DJ Pony, and
Correct.
she actually had a really cool, almost a PMV. Well, without any ponies in it.
Oh yeah,
done by the
Howard
hub.
was showing us that
Yeah.
last week, right?
Yeah, it's I mean, spoiler alert, but it's